It is time to expand minds through movies, TV, sports, and flicks. It is time to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. It is time for the Captain Talks Flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Welcome to the Captain Talks Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the Captain Cortez, aka Mr. Love, and this is where we talk flicks. I walk in the podcast where me, the Captain, talks about movies, TV, sports, flicks, anything you can see on a tube or a screen. I like to get on here, give my unique perspective, because after 47 years of being on planet Earth, I've developed a unique perspective about these movies, TV, sports, and flicks, and I like to get on and tell about it. Because just maybe you care. And according to the stats, it looks like you do care. I want to give a big shout out to Sri Lanka. Got some plays over in Sri Lanka this past week. Gracias, gratitude, Dodoraba. In Sri Lanka, I heard that you guys have magnificent tea. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you guys got all types of great tea. So one of these days, I'm going to have to try some tea from your land. I'm sure it's great. I can't wait. So thanks for listening. And just FYI, back in the day I went to school to radio DJ, but never got a job. I think I never got a job because I just did not have the focus. If I would have had a bit more focus, then maybe that would enable me to become a radio DJ. But it didn't. That allowed me to become the greatest podcaster in the Matrix. Something to debate, might be true, might not be true, but I said it on the internet, so it's gotta be true, right? Because everything on the internet is facts, not facts, true, false, propaganda, fake news, the Matrix, pens, pencils, paper, ink, erasers. I don't know. I didn't make the internet. Ask the people that made the internet. So when you're online, just beware, just watch out. Anyways, I can ramble all day, but I won't. Let's get right into the podcast. But first, a word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I rap. And on August 31st, 2023, I rapped again. I dropped my album called Master of Palabras, and now the track called The Orchestrator from that album is now available for streaming everywhere. So if you want to hear the Captain rap and rhyme in his unique rhyming style, a little bit crazy, a little bit wild, I just take all the things I've been exposed to and heard in real life on the internet, and I put it in rhyme form, and I spit it over crazy, weird, spacey beats. So if you want to hear me do that on the song called The Orchestrator, I will put the link below. Check it out. Now, let's get on with the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back again. And I've been up for a while. I got up extra early today, earlier than I wanted to. So the goal when I went to bed last night was to sleep. And I said, yeah, I'm going to sleep in and get a full 8-9 hours sleep. And if for whatever reason I woke up, maybe got like 5.5. Now, I don't recommend getting that much sleep. I highly recommend get lots of sleep if you can. But sometimes you just can't for whatever reason. As I get older, it seems that's more and more true. And so since I was up early, one of my rules is like, bro, if you can't sleep, do some work. Like, that's my mindset. Like, get some work done. So I got up, I had breakfast, I bought groceries, got to the grocery store, got my food for the week to fuel my body up, and I started prepping for the podcast. I was like, let's just get work done. You can't sleep, get work done. You know what I mean? This is how I'm doing. There's a lot of things that gotta be done, that gotta happen. A lot of duties, responsibilities, chores, things that gotta get done. So the Captain just got right into them. And now I'm here, and it is time to podcast. And this week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about my most favorite franchise in the multiverse, in the universe, in the cosmos. And if you've been here before, you know what it is. But if you have not, let me tell you what it is. I'm talking about the one and the only Star Trek. Yeah, this week I got to see Star Trek Lower Decks, Empathological Fallacies. I think that's how you pronounce it. That may not be how you pronounce it. But anyways, I seen that this week. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But before I get to that, a couple things. First of all, there will be spoilers. And second of all, I do own some shares in the parent company of Star Trek. I just want to be clear and transparent to let you know. Now that I told you that, let's get into Star Trek Lower Decks Empathological Fallacies. Ladies and gentlemen, as usual, Star Trek Lower Decks is just a great, fun, enjoyable ride. If you love Star Trek the way I love Star Trek, there's no way you cannot enjoy this comedic take on the Star Trek franchise. It is great. And again, we go down the rabbit hole and we take a ride of fun, joyous, craziness, wildness, jokes, funny, Easter eggs, love letters to Star Trek. It's great. Every week is great. But this week, we got visited by some Betazoids. And if you've seen Star Trek before, you're familiar with Betazoids. There's a very famous Betazoid that boldly went on adventures with my favorite captain, Jean-Luc Picard. And I'm talking about Deanna Troi, probably the most famous Betazoid in the Star Trek universe. But this episode, we got to see some Betazoids join Cerritos to be transported by the Cerritos. But it turns out, spoiler, these Betazoids were Betazoid intelligence. Now, I could go down the whole rabbit hole of questions I have about that. I love the spy game. I love espionage. It'd be so interesting to get the backstory of Beta Z intelligence. I would love to see that fleshed out someday. Maybe in the Section 31 movie, we'll get to see a little bit of that. I think it'd be so interesting. Like I said, I love spy stuff so much. It'd be so cool to see that. But it's interesting that we got to see a taste of Betazoid intelligence. Very cool. Yeah, so anyways, there's a whole thing on the ship, basically with these ladies are on the ship and the crew starts getting very emotional. And they're trying to find out what's going on with that because all the crew's acting crazy. Like a million other Star Trek episodes you've seen where the crew just acts wild. I mean, the crew acting wild and emotional and crazy happens quite a bit in the Star Trek world, like quite a bit. There's always various reasons for that. And then this week, the reason was because not the Beta Zeds, spoiler, but it was T'Lyn, my new favorite character on the Cerritos. T'Lyn, I love T'Lyn. She's so awesome. She's so interesting. I know I couldn't remember her name last week, but I made it a point to make sure to know her name. And I love the character. She's absolutely fantastic. But it turns out she was the cause of all this craziness. And so basically it was like, figuring all that, solving that, resolving the craziness of the crew, and that got resolved. But what I want to go into this week is kind of have to do with T'Lyn. T'Lyn and emotions. Because in the episode, we got to see the crew just get very, very emotional, wild and crazy. And T'Lyn, slightly, but not so much. Because Vulcans in general are known for keeping their emotions in check. And that's one of the things I admire of Vulcans so much. All the different Vulcans I've seen over all the different Star Trek episodes, all the different Star Trek series I've seen, Spock, T'Pol, Tuvok, to name a few. It's just been wonderfully good at showing what it's like to have emotions in check. Now, don't get me wrong, they've gotten emotional at times, but most of the time they're very poised, very calm, very logical, very calculated. And in 2023, this is the way the captain likes to move. Now, you might hear this podcast like, bro, you are so emotional and expressive on this podcast. And that is true. When it's podcast mode, it is time to express. But generally walking around more of a Spock mentality, Spock mindset, a Vulcan mindset, just more logical, more emotions in check. Because I feel the lesson of this episode is like, you kind of do need to keep your emotions in check in moments of time. There's a time to let them loose, and there's a time to keep them in check. But you just can't go around letting your emotions out all the time. It's just not a good move to make. Now, full disclosure, I have some good friends, and they don't do that. Yeah, they are known to just express their emotions quite regularly and quite whenever they want. And that's what I like about them. These human beings that do that, I like them. I kind of think in the Star Trek world and the real world as well, they're part of the reason why maybe Captain Kirk and Spock get along so well, because Kirk can be very emotional and Spock not, and there's just some connection there. And with these people that I know, where I'm more Spock, I'm more Vulcan, and these people are more emotional, like human or Kirk or whatever, that's why maybe there's some vibe in there. Because these people that I know in real life, that are very expressive, very emotional, I like them a lot. I just love the realness and the rawness of it. And then just me over here, just more relaxed, chilled, and more not as emotional. But to go back to what I was talking about, I do feel in the real world, to thrive and do well, to succeed, you do need to keep emotions in check, right? So like I said, there's a time and place to let loose and a time and place to throttle them back. And at moments of time, walk in my life, I felt emotions heavily, but I let them chill, relax, subdue them, and I let them loose at a later time. In a lot of ways that I would let emotions loose is I'm going to hit the heavy bag, bro. I put some gloves on and just start wailing on the heavy bag. That's my process for letting emotions out and processing them, whatever they may be. I just get in and just do that work, and it seems to help. And in the moment of time where I might be feeling them heavily, I just kind of hold them back slightly and let them loose at another time. Or maybe I'll use the rhyming, rapping, express it that way, right? Because I feel like if we take that emotional energy we got, we can use it to create things and do things that will enhance ourselves, right? Depending on how you let those emotions flow. So like, you could just let them out in the moment and just let them loose and just kind of, you'll spray everybody in your vicinity and let them hear all these words or whatever, these actions, let it out like that. And that's cool. Yeah, do what works for you. But if we're able to hold those emotions back in the moment and just save them to process them later and then put them into endeavors that we can take those emotions and we can create something great with them that will enhance our life, right? Like I said, exercise, right? Make your body stronger, or artistic creations. You'll create great art with the emotion. Come in here and do this with your voice like I do. Like, I'm getting all excited. Like, that's emotion getting let loose. I'm letting it out. Like, during the week, it's not so much, but I come to the podcast to let it out with a crazy voice, crazy expression. Like, we can create things, do things that will enhance us as a human being if we use the emotions at the right time and the right moments. Maybe. Is this crazy talk? I don't know, bro. I'm no expert, but maybe that's true. At least that's what I saw on Star Trek Lower Decks this week. And so, I don't know. Is that what you saw? You see something different? Is that wrong? Am I wrong here? I don't know. I'm just talking about ideas. I just watch Star Trek and see where the mind goes, and this is where the mind went. So, ladies and gentlemen, Star Trek Lower Decks was absolutely fantastic, as usual. And I highly recommend you go check out Star Trek Lower Decks or any other Star Trek, because I guarantee you, it'll be absolutely fantastic, and you'll learn some lessons along the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the podcast. And until next time, we'll see you. Fitness. If it came in a bottle, everybody would have a great body. Share. Until next time, it's Captain Peace.
The Captain Talks Flicks.